Hey, Michael.
Hello, Torin.
All right, so this is our second episode, and just quickly as a way of introduction, I'm Torin Lucas, psychotherapist with the Whitestone Clinic, and over to you, Michael.
Yeah, Michael Browning, founder and director of the Whitestone Clinic.
Right, so today, Michael, we wanted to talk about communications and communication specifically within couples. This is obviously a topic that we encounter a lot with the couples we work with.
Hmm.
And yeah, we wanted to introduce some tools that we have and we
Sure.
discuss as well. In the background, we have a course in couples communication called the Picnic Method that's on the Whitestone site, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, over to you, Michael. Why do you think this is such an important topic and comes up so much?
Well, a lot of people reach out to therapy for their couples communication because, obviously they're having some problems. They've been trying to sort it out themselves, and the way they're communicating and how it's getting across or not is negatively impacting their relationship. So they seek out a third party, a professional party to help them with those struggles because it makes sense, right? We've tried every which way on our own and we're not getting very far. So let's talk to somebody. So that's, a good chunk of our psychotherapy services is with couples, and a good chunk of those couple files are regarding communication issues.
Yeah. And from in my experience, it's easy to say, well, we need to improve our communication, but it's more difficult to identify what went wrong in the first place, right? Because two people who love each other and become uh, deep in their deepen their relationship through the course of their couple experience,
Mhm.
um, start to introduce sort of unconscious behaviors and assumptions within the relationship that derails. And I can think of countless different strategies which individuals employ. One of them that comes to mind is if I say it, then it won't be voluntary. Do you know what I mean by that?
Well, you're talking about trying to get the other person to talk to you or do a certain thing. If I ask for it, then
Yeah,
it doesn't count. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, that does happen a lot. I think a lot of it is that people are trying to get their wounds validated. They want to get filled up in a good way from the other, and it kind of feels like evoking it in the other is a form of purchasing it. It doesn't really count as a gift. It's sort of a return on a request. And then there's further disappointment if you ask and it doesn't happen. So sometimes not asking is a protection mechanism, to avoid the hurt of what if I ask and they don't do, right?
Hmm.
So there's a number of reasons people might be doing that. Another thing is, they might be expecting mind reading. You should just know. You should know either in general, or I've told you so many times that I don't want to repeat it, so you should know it by now. But
Hmm.
either of those things, it leads to a type of mind reading because the other person might be completely content and unaware that you're upset about something or what you're upset about, and without expressing it, they may not figure it out. And you can be upset they should by now, but that doesn't change the fact they're not. So that's not going to get you out of your conundrum.
Hmm. Although there's no taking away from that unrequested sort of gift of "I love you" all of out of the blue, if that's what you were seeking.
Or, hey, or honey, let's talk tonight. I'd love to chat with you about whatever's going on. Like anything like that, invitational
Mhm.
and open that comes
Mhm.
voluntarily from the other is very rewarding. But like I said, part of the
Mhm.
problem is the people stopping to ask because they just want it to be given, even if they feel they have a right to that. Just the reality is you can sit a very long time waiting in your rights and not get anything.
Mhm. Yeah, there is that notion of I have rights,
Mhm.
and which kind of feeds into the other game people play, or the trap that people fall into, which is, it shouldn't have to be said, or action speaks louder than words.
Yes, what I was just talking about, the idea that the other person is going to operate within the communication of the couple the way you would want them to operate, the way you maybe would operate. But then that just can lead to a lot of frustration. I think one of the things is that people communicate very differently, okay? Individually from different family of origins. We talked about last time, male, female brains, etc. Like we were just socialized differently, taught differently. So what one of the frustrating things for most couples is each expects their way of communicating is the right way. So if you're not doing it my way, you're doing it wrong. Or you're being purposely wrongful in doing it not my way. And we don't say it like that, but like if we're checking our gut, like that's really what we're doing. It's like I don't like the way you communicate my way. Now I'm upset you're not communicating my way. So it's really important to find a common way for both of you to communicate because it's like you're both speaking different languages.
And languages, I was just going to say, love languages do differ. And some people, the way in which they express and expect to receive love is verbally. In others, it's, showing expressions of service, doing, not necessarily saying. So it does fall into kind of our expectations. What I think is often true is we love the way we would like to be loved.
Mm,
So if we want to, if it we are verbally oriented, and we
mm.
express our love in that manner, then chances are that that's what our expectations are in in the other way, and what we expect to receive. So within a
Mhm.
couple, it's I think useful to kind of be aware of that, how our partner, our husband or wife, is expressing themselves, and loving ourselves, because chances are there's a clue there as to what they need.
Yeah,
Um,
if you observe the way they're loving you, you're gonna get a sense of how they want you to show that form of love to them, like an acts of service or touch or different things like that. I find it very interesting. I mean, it might be a biased sampling as couples therapists because we're getting people who are coming in with struggles, and we're not out there, in the living room with people who are getting along great and everything's fantastic.
yeah.
But I often see that there's quite the mismatch of different forms of ways people show affection and love. Like you would think that a person who loves touch as a form of communicating love would find another person who loves touch and they'd just be touching each other all the time and that would be how they get along. But
Yeah.
it's often the other way around,
Yeah.
and the other person who doesn't like touch might not mind getting touched, but they don't think to touch back, or they, have that issue. And so it's just interesting. There is a bit of a mismatch. And I think one of the frustrations, because there's that book, was it Five Loves or the Love Languages, the Five Love Languages? A lot of couples, if they read that book, they come back a little later really upset because they go through it all. They identify like their top three in order of hierarchy of preferences, and they communicate that with their partner, and they expect like from that point on, the other partners are going to do their top two at least and do it all the time, and then they don't. And I think part of it is it's a new language, right? Like if you're not a person that likes touch,
Mhm.
remembering to go and touch the other and be with the other and offer it and all that takes concerted effort. It is just not natural to you and
Mhm.
something you prefer maybe not to do.
Mhm.
So it takes a lot of effort. And so to build new habits, it takes a lot of time. It's
Mhm.
important not to get upset at people as they're learning your language.
Yeah, it does take effort, and sort of consciously, and proactively, which kind of leads into the framework, the picnic method. But I just wanted to emphasize what you were saying now, highlight that, there's this notion that we fall into love. Like we fell into love, and it's a passive experience that you fall into without effort.
Mhm.
Whereas, if we're conscious about it and make it something that we become, I don't know, good at or recognized at or feel a
Mhm.
sense of, collective purpose or
Sure.
closer to our partners or more fulfilled in a relationship, then why not make it something that we work on? Not as a deficit, not like there's something wrong even necessarily, but just something that moves a couple towards being optimum, being closer. Okay. So yeah,
Sure.
that being said, can you tell us a bit about the picnic method and the course that we have in the
Yeah,
clinic?
well, one of the reasons we have a course, we have different courses on our website, but first of all, not everyone needs full-on therapy, but they know they need help, right? So, a course can be a good way to do things on your own pace, together as a couple, getting the psychoeducation and the tools that are in there and practicing them, together. So it's helpful to people who may not need full-on therapy. It's also great supplemental to people who are in therapy because, quite honestly, without the course, you go in and pay per hour to get the same lessons, and it's way more expensive when you're paying per hour how many lessons there are than just getting a course. So the course supplements couples therapy so that you're kind of doing like the psychoeducation and some of the work from the course, and it makes your therapy sessions more focused on like particular problems or solutions. And so we use it both ways for people who don't need therapy, but also those who want to supplement their therapy.
Mhm. And I will put the link to that course in the details, whether you're receiving this podcast via YouTube or Apple platforms or however it is. Have a look for the link there. And I think we should conclude there. Keep the podcast focused, and I look forward to our next one, Michael.
All right, you take care, Torin.
Cheerio. Bye.
Okay, I think if in the future we should get some AI. Am I still recording or no? Did it say recording stopped?
It didn't on my end.
There, stop recording.